We just wrapped perhaps what is considered one of the most consequential elections in U.S. history. The question is, and I know you just finished a conference on this, is what happens after the election? What is the horizon looking like now? And probably the number one thing we have to discuss is, will we see a peaceful transition of power?
Yeah, well, the answer to the first question is nothing good. And the reason I say that is because the US is truly divided into two groups that actually hate each other on a visceral level. I'm talking about the people that support Trump and the people that voted for Biden. Maybe, I can't believe anybody supports him, but I guess they hate Trump so much that they were willing to vote for Biden. And God forbid Kamala Harris, who's America's answer to Eva Perón from Argentina. So the answer to the question is that this election is as important as the one of Lincoln in 1860, the consequence of which was the war between the states in 1860 that lasted from 1861 to 1865. And it's going to end badly because when you have two groups that disagree on real fundamentals, what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's evil, what should we do, what shouldn't we do, and it's visceral, they shouldn't be in the same political entity together. Why? Because one group or the other is going to get control of the state and impose its will on the others and make them very unhappy. And that's where we are right now. And I don't know what the cultural conservatives, which is what Trump is all about. I mean, Trump has no inner compass. He's an opportunist. He knows nothing about economics. His economic policy is basically the same as Biden's. Trump is a cultural conservative. That's why people like him. That's why they support him. He doesn't want to overturn the nature of the US, which is what the Democrats really want to do. I'm talking about from Kamala to AOC and all the rest of them right on down. So yeah, we're on the cusp of a civil war. Best case is a secession where people just split into different political entities. Because what is going to happen when Biden, he'll do pretty much what he promised. Unusual for a politician to do what they promise. They only do bad things that they promise. But what's he going to do? He's going to print money like it's going out of style, trillions more dollars. Well, Trump would have done that too. But he's also going to raise taxes, which people won't like. And he's going to repeal the deregulation movements that Trump has made and add lots of new regulations. So the Greater Depression is going to get worse, number one. But what's going to be the fuse that's going to light the fire? I think it's going to be when he has some lunatic like Beto O'Rourke, who you'll recall was one of the 20 wannabe presidential candidates for the Democrats. When he has somebody like that, probably Beto himself, try to confiscate people's guns or make owning them very, very uncomfortable. At that point, that may be the line in the sand for the people in flyover country. And gun possession is very important because from ancient times, the difference between a slave, and we don't have official slavery anymore, of course, notwithstanding what Black Lives Matter thinks, between a slave and a free man, one of the major differences was the legal ability to be armed, to protect yourself. Slaves and serfs could not be armed. Free men could be armed. In fact, free men were expected to be armed and expected to know how to use their weapons. So if you don't have any means of self-defense, you're in effect a serf. And these idiots think that in a case, for instance, where you suffer a home invasion at 3 in the morning, it happens, and there'll be more of this as the standard of living goes down. What are you supposed to do? Call the police and wait 20 minutes, or engage in hand-to-hand combat with armed assailants? It's actually crazy. It's morally insane and it's practically insane. But that could be the spark that lights the fuse. I wonder who those people lined up for the food banks are. These weren't grapes of wrath style 1930s era jalopies. These were, I looked at these lines and they're like the new SUVs. Well, yeah, I'm wondering what's going on here. But one thing that's going on here is that in the past, people used to save up. I mean, when I was a kid, we used to save up to buy a car, get the money, buy the car. Then we got 2-year financing on cars, 3-year, 4-year, 7-year financing on cars. People can't even afford that anymore, so they lease a car. And even cars, like those expensive cars that those food bank people have, they've gone from being a small but real asset to an immediate and large liability. I mean, it's typical of what's happening in the US, is that people are living above their means because of debt. You can borrow, so why not do it? But the only way you can actually get rich, unless you get lucky as a speculator, is by producing more than you consume and putting the difference aside in saving. I mean, well, why save when I can borrow and borrow at very low interest rates? I mean, let's party. So I think we're living and have been living for some time in a dream world, and we're going to be brought up short, like starting now. Let's analyze them. If you take out a mortgage on the right piece of property, that mortgage is going to be inflated out of existence in the years to come. That's just about guaranteed because of the trillions and trillions of currency units that are being created. So having a big mortgage at 2 or 3%, at most 4%, that's like a gift. So that's the event. But then you've got to buy in the right market, because since the real estate market itself floats on a sea of debt, it could collapse. Interest rates go up. People can no longer afford their adjustable rate markets, and the property hits the market. If you're going to buy something today, I'd say buy in a small town in a state like Wyoming or South Dakota or Utah, one of these flyover states. I think it's way too early to speculate in New York real estate, quite frankly, because the New York government, the city, the state are both bankrupt. So where are they going to get? They can't print money the way the US government does. So they're going to tax the wealthy. That's real estate owners. So I think real estate prices could head down in major cities. So that's how I'd solve the problem.